How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Australia. In today's video, we're going to be counting down the 10 most valuable modern Australian coins that can be worth some seriously big money. We're talking coins that might be sitting in your pocket, hiding in your spare change, or tossed in a drawer without anyone realizing their true value or potential. Now, these aren't ancient relics or collectors only pieces. These are modern Australian coins that have skyrocketed in value due to rare airs, low mintages, or unexpected demand from collectors. Some of these have actually been discovered in circulation, while others were discovered through auctions and through lots and estates. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just curious about the treasures hiding in everyday pocket change, this list will open your eyes to what could be right under your nose. These are some coins that can seriously level up your collection or put some extra cash in your pocket. Before we do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. And make sure to stick around until the very end if you want to find out one of the rarest and most valuable Australian coins that you could possibly find. And then without any further ado, what do you say we get right into it? These are 10 modern Australian coins that are worth big money. Let's get it, guys. The Australian 50-cent coin has been a cornerstone of the country's decimal currency system since it was first introduced in the year 1966. While the original round version was actually composed of 80% silver, it was quickly withdrawn from circulation due to the rising price of silver bullion. In the year 1969, the familiar 12-sided copper-nickel version was introduced, and it remains in use to this day. Its large size and distinctive dodecagonal shape make it one of the most recognizable and iconic coins in Australian currency. Now, the 2010 Australian 50-cent coin at first glance appears completely normal. It features the standard reverse design showcasing the Australian coat of arms, which was created by master engraver Stuart Devlin. The obverse will typically bear the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. Now, in the year 2010, a small number of these coins were struck with a surprising and valuable minting error, referred to as an upset die error, also commonly known as a rotated die or a rotated alignment error. Under normal minting standards, Australian coins, like those from Canada and the United Kingdom, are struck in metal alignment. This means that when you flip the coin side to side, both the obverse and reverse should be perfectly upright and facing in the same direction. Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom all use metal alignment on their coins. The United States is an example of a country that uses coin alignment where the obverse and reverse will be flipped 180 degrees. And that is where the rotated die 2010 50-cent error comes in. Some of these pieces actually deviate from the standard. When they are flipped horizontally, the coat of arms on the reverse appears tilted, rotated, or even fully upside down, depending on the degree of misalignment. Most known examples of this error are rotated around 30 degrees, though there are some more severe errors with 60 degree, 90 degree, or even 180 degree rotations. This kind of error occurs when one of the dies, typically the reverse die, becomes misaligned during the minting process. If one of the dies being used to strike the coins rotates even slightly out of its proper position, every coin struck with that die will exhibit the same rotational flaw until the issue is corrected. These are commonly known as rotated die errors, and in the case of the 2010 Australian 50-cent, examples are particularly interesting due to the subtlety of the defect and the fact that many likely entered circulation unnoticed. Now, identifying one of these 2010 upset die errors is fairly simple once you know what to look for. If you have an Australian 2010 50-cent coin with the coat of arms reverse design, first you want to hold the coin with the Queen's portrait upright and facing you. Then put your pointer finger on the top of the coin, your thumb on the bottom, and flip the coin horizontally from left to right. If the coat of arms on the reverse appears off-center, rotated, or even completely upside down, you may possess a rotated die heir. Even small rotations, as little as 15 degrees, can give the coin added value in the eyes of some collectors. It's important to remember that Australian coins use metal alignment as the standard, so be sure to flip the coin from side to side, not from top to bottom. The cause of this error lies in the mechanical process in striking the coins. If one of the dies was improperly installed, comes loose, or shifts slightly due to press wear or mechanical failure, it may rotate out of alignment. While quality control measures are in place at the Royal Australian Mint, subtle errors like slight rotations can escape detection, especially when the resulting coins appear nearly normal at first. The 2010 upset 50-cent error was never officially acknowledged or documented by the Mint, and no specific mintage figures are available. Instead, these errors were discovered by collectors, and coins began surfacing through coin roll hunts and bulk lots. Though they are not extremely rare, they are certainly uncommon and quite sought after by heir collectors and those focused on modern decimal varieties. Most known examples of this error show a similar angle of rotation, suggesting that they were produced by a single misaligned die pair that was likely briefly used before being corrected. Despite this error now being 15 years old, these coins can still be found in circulation, making them an exciting target for Australian coin roll hunters and everyday collectors alike. As always with heir coins, buyers should exercise extreme caution. It is possible that there are fakes where the coins have been artificially rotated or misrepresented in holders. If you are buying one of these to add to your collection, I definitely suggest that you buy a graded or authenticated example, as buying one that is simply in a coin flip might not give you the correct degree of rotation. Now, the 2010 Australian upset die 50-cent error stands out. It's a reminder that even in high-tech, precision-controlled minting environments, human error and machine failure can still produce collectible oddities. And for those that keep their eyes open, these errors can lead to real finds hiding in plain sight. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started in your coin collecting journey, this is one of the modern Australian coins worth keeping an eye out for. Now, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate that the coin is not legitimate or authentic. It's also important to note that there was a commemorative Australia Day 50-cent piece released for circulation in the year 2010, and there were several other commemorative 50-cent pieces with different designs released only in proof sets. But this rare rotated die error can only be found on the common circulation issue, which has the Australian reverse coat of arms design. The overall mintage for the 2010 Australian 50-cent coin is 22,200,000. The mintage figure for the commemorative Australia Day piece is 11,452,000. It is composed of 75% copper, 25% nickel, and has a diameter of 31.5 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Ian Rank Broadley, and the reverse by Stuart Devlin. Now, what do you say we get into the potential values for this piece if you happen to own or find one? Now, there are only high-grade examples listed for this piece, but I actually did find some eBay listings for some lower-grade examples that were listed even around $200 to $300. But to give you guys some more accurate price listings, this coin can be worth around $70 for an MS60. Now, the highest listed value that I could find for this piece currently is around $100 for an MS63, but as I mentioned, some of these are selling in much lower grades for even higher prices, so there is clearly a demand for this piece, and as is the case with many coins, it is pretty much worth whatever you can get somebody to pay for it. But I don't doubt that if you could find one around an MS67, it could easily be worth $300, and that is a book or market value. Now, examples are extremely scarce in this grade. There's possibly only a handful of known examples. Your best chance of finding high-grade examples is if you would be able to get your hands on an uncirculated roll. You might be able to score a few of them, because when these coins are being struck, the errors will happen consecutively, so usually they will be bunched together in rolls. Now, if you're able to find one of these and it's scored above an MS67, I don't doubt that you could easily get around $1,000. This is a super cool error, and unfortunately there aren't too many errors to look for in modern Australian numismatics, but this is definitely a good one to keep on your radar. Also keep in mind that these are estimates, as no known sales exist for any MS65 examples or higher currently. The actual prices vary a lot depending on the demand, the auction competition, and the coin's grade and certification. If a true MS67 or higher example were to surface and be certified, it could easily set a new record for this variety. Also, the die rotation plays a huge factor in this coin's price. All of these prices assume that the coin has at least a 30-degree rotation. Any with a 90 or 180-degree rotation may be able to command even more. Australia, Canada, and Britain all share a symbiotic relationship when it comes to their coins and currency, but February 14th, 1966 marked a monumental turning point for Australia. On this fateful day, the nation bid farewell to its age-old currency system, which was rooted in the British pound, shilling, and pence, and embarked on a bold expedition towards the modern decimal currency system that it now proudly flaunts. This transformation was no mere alteration, it was a seismic shift that encompassed various pivotal elements. As the Australian pound, which had long held sway as the primary currency, gracefully bowed out of the spotlight, it made way for the emergence of the Australian dollar. This new currency, bearing the familiar name of dollars, was ingeniously divided into 100 cents, echoing the global currency trends that were taking shape. With the adoption of the decimal system, it was inevitable that a new arsenal of coins would take center stage. This impressive ensemble included the 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent, and 50 cent coins, each of them a piece of numismatic innovation. However, it's worth noting that the sands of time continued to flow. The 1 and 2 cent coin gracefully bowed out of the scenes, finding themselves relegated to the annals of coin history. New banknotes were also issued in varying denominations to cater to the diverse needs to the Australian populace. The modest $1 and $2 notes were soon joined by their more illustrious counterparts, the $5, $10, and $20 notes, and in subsequent years, the coveted $50 and $100 notes also made their splendid entrance. During this pivotal juncture, both the old pound shilling pence system and the new decimal system coexisted, akin to the old friend bidding farewell to a new one making a grand entrance. This effort was aimed at empowering citizens with the knowledge required to navigate this brave new financial world. The aim was not only to ensure a seamless transition, but also to foster a sense of comfort and familiarity with the novel currency. To quell any concerns about financial upheaval, existing savings and bank accounts underwent a meticulous transformation, evolving from pounds to dollars. Remarkably, the value essentially remained the same, thus maintaining the economic equilibrium. Australian coin decimalization was more than just an alteration. It was a profound leap forward in Australia's financial and economic evolution. It bestowed upon the nation the gift of simplicity in everyday transactions, endowing customers and businesses alike with a newfound ease in calculations. Today, the Australian dollar stands tall as one of the globe's prominent currencies, wielding its influence with grace and authority in international trade and finance. The Australian 5 cent coin, which was introduced on February 14, 1966, replaced the pre-decimal 6 pence and has been the lowest denomination coin since the withdrawal of the 1 cent and 2 cent coins in 1992. Due to inflation, its purchasing power has steadily declined and as of 2018 represents only 0.27% of the minimum hourly wage for workers aged 21 and over. Typical of most Australian coins, the reverse side features a design of an iconic Australian animal, while the obverse side displays Queen Elizabeth II. A commemorative 2016 coin marked the 50th anniversary of decimal currency. Despite its high mintage, the Australian 5 cent coin doesn't actually circulate well due to its low value, similar to the Euro 1 cent coin. The lowest production run was 8.25 million in the year 1972, while the highest was 306.5 million in the year 2006. No coins were actually issued for circulation in the years 1985 and 1986, they were only minted for special edition proof and specimen sets. There have been many debates about removing this coin from circulation due to its low value and high production costs. In May 2007, its bullion value was around 6.5 cents, though there were no reports of hoarding or melting despite the potential 30% profit. Market prices as of June 2018 were about $7 per kilogram for copper and about $15 per kilogram for nickel, making the metal content worth 2.5 cents or 50% of its face value. The production cost in making these coins is reported to be 12 cents. In Australia, these 5-cent coins are legal tender for amounts owed up to $5 in debt payments. So now that we have given you guys some basic information on the Australian 5-cent coin, what do you say we get into the coin that you guys are all here for, and that is the 2007 double head. Now the Australian 5-cent coin with the double head heir was minted in the year 2007. It's super important to note that this error is specific to the 2007 dated 5-cent coins. Now what makes this coin so special is instead of the regular design with Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse and the Enchedna on the reverse, this coin actually has the Queen's portrait on both sides of the coin. This is an extremely rare occurrence and the result of a minting error. The exact number of these coins in circulation is not precisely known, but due to their rarity, they are highly sought after by collectors. It's estimated that only a very limited number of these coins were actually produced, making them a highly valuable find. Collectors of error coins find this particular coin highly desirable due to its uniqueness. Error coins often command high prices in the numismatic market, especially when they involve a significant deviation from the standard design. Now, before we get into the value, let's go over some of the specifications. The 2007 error you are looking for will come in a rotated, incorrect alignment, usually resembling coin alignment, but there may be deviations in the orientation of the obverse and reverse, but the most important thing is that this piece has the obverse die design on both faces of the coin. Now some of the specifications: it was minted at the Canberra Mint. It is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It has a weight of 2.83 grams, a diameter of 19.4 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Ian Rank Broadley, and the reverse was designed and engraved by Stuart Devlin, and the edge of the coin is milled. Now in the past, I have discussed a few of the Australian, British, American, and Canadian coins that you can find that can be worth some buku crazy amounts of money, but usually the sad fact and reality of coin collecting is it's the older pieces and the specimen pieces and the holy grails that are worth a lot of money. But this one is actually a modern coin. It is from the year 2007, so there is a decent chance if you are from Australia that you could find one of these if you are a coin roll hunter or coin collector. Now, in terms of value, this is definitely one of the most valuable modern Australian coins that I have covered on my channel. It can be worth around $3,300 for an MS60 example. It can be worth $5,600 for an MS63 example, which as far as I can tell is the highest graded known example. But if you were to find one of these and it scored around an MS65, you could easily be talking a $10,000 coin. And another super important thing to note is that it's much more common for Australian, British, and American coins to score from MS67 to MS70. Canadian coins rarely surpass the MS67 mark. I'm not quite sure why. If any of you guys have any information or theories on that, I would love to know down in the comments. But for whatever that reason is, Australian coins seem to have a higher chance of getting those higher grade tiers, which can also add to the premium of this coin. So if you found one of these and it scored in an MS68, MS69, then you could be talking a $20,000, $30,000 error coin right here. In the year 1966, around 36 million 50-cent coins were produced at the Canberra Mint exclusively. The production of this round highest denomination coin stopped when silver price on the market got up around 80% in a few months. We know that the mint melted down a large amount of them early in 1966 and recalled a lot of them each year for melting and profit purposes. Now, one question people ask is how many still exist. An estimate of 50 to 60% of the 1966 Australian silver half dollars are estimated to have survived. Many people kept a lot of them out of circulation since 1966, making it less rare than it should be. At this moment in time, PCGS certified a total of 1,273 circulating examples of them, and NGC a total of 35. The highest grade known currently is MS67, with only 3 of them having that attribution, all of them being graded by PCGS. Only 9 50-cent 1966 proof coins have been certified. A number of proofs and patterns, including the double bar pattern and the no field design pattern, are known to be struck at the Royal Mint in London. The obverse of this coin shows the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with Australia and the date 1966. The reverse, designed by Stuart Devlin, features a design of a kangaroo and an emu near the coat of arms, reminiscent of the pre-decimal 1911 to 1936 silver 3 pence, 6 pence, shilling, and florin coins. Some of the details and specifications of this coin: it was struck in the year 1966, it has a face value of 50 cents, its shape is round, it has a weight of 13.28 grams, a diameter of 31.5 millimeters, a thickness of 2 millimeters. Its designers were Arnold Machin for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse. It is composed of 80% silver and 20% copper and has milled edges. No 50-cent coin was produced in 1967 and 1968, and starting in 1969, the composition of the coin changed from 80% silver and 20% copper to 75% copper and 25% nickel, making it one of the last silver circulating coins in the history of Australia, and the shape became dodecagonal to differentiate it between the 20-cent coin. In the year 2006, 40 years after the introduction of decimal currency, and 2010, a commemorative round silver 80% 20% copper proof on circulating 50-cent coin was made. An extremely limited pure gold proof set was also issued. So if you're ever shopping for foreign silver coins online, or if you're actually from Australia, I guess this would be considered something like a scrap silver coin, you could really get lucky if you find one of these 1966 50-cent coins and they actually are in decent condition. There are not too many that have been attributed to the MS scale. They are quite rare and definitely one of the holy grails of the more modern Australian coin era. So before we do get into the value for the Australian 50-cent Millennium Infused Flag variety, I just want to go over some of the history of the Australian 50-cent coin. The third highest denomination coin of the Australian dollar and the largest in terms of size currently in circulation is the 12-sided 50-cent coin. It is actually identical to the Cook Islands $5 coin in terms of size and shape, and both pieces continue to be the only 12-sided coins in the Southern Hemisphere. The Australian 50-cent coin was first released in 1969 to take the place of the 1966 issued round 50-cent coin. The first 50-cent coins were round and made of 80% silver and 20% copper. However, as the value of a free-floating silver price increased, the bullion value of the coin increased to the point where it was worth more than the face value of the coin. As a result, that version was taken out of circulation and replaced with the dodecagonal cupro-nickel version of the coin. The Australian 50-cent coin is actually the third largest coin currently in circulation in the world. The only two coins that are larger are the Costa Rican 500 Colon and the 50 franc coin. With the exception of the years 1967 and 1968, which neither have mint or proof sets nor circulation strikes issued, the year-dated 50-cent coins for 1986, 1987, 89, 90, and 92 are exclusively available on only mint and proof sets. Australian 50-cent coins are only considered legal tender for a payment of a debt that does not exceed $5, but they are commonly accepted and used as legal money in everyday transactions. Like on all Australian coins, the current monarch is depicted on the obverse. So currently Elizabeth II is featured on Australian coins, but there should very likely soon be a switch to King Charles. Most common Australian 50-cent circulating coins will have the Australian coat of arms as the design on the reverse, but there have been commemorative issues throughout the years. One of the most notable and also valuable of the commemorative 50-cent Australian coins is a Millennium piece from the year 2000. In the fascinating world of coin collecting, remarkable discoveries often unfold and enthusiasts find themselves on a treasure hunt like no other. A gentleman by the name of Drew Jackson, who was a dedicated coin collector with a keen eye for finding error and varieties, embarked on such a journey in the year 2006, and his find would become the stuff of numismatic legends. It was the year 2000, and the world was in the midst of celebrating the turn of the new millennium. It was a time of reflection, anticipation, and for coin collectors, a time of heightened interest in commemorative coins. Among these coins was the Australian 50-cent commemorative Millennium coin, a symbol of hope and new beginnings. What makes Drew Jackson's discovery truly exceptional is the nature of the variation that he unearthed. The raised and incused flag variations on the coin's reverse side. Now these aren't just any variations, they're like hidden gems within the realm of coinage. The Royal Australian Mint, who is responsible for producing these remarkable pieces of currency, estimated that there are only approximately 200,000 of these unique variety coins that were struck with a single die intended for circulation. But what exactly sets these coins apart and makes them a collector's dream? Well, on the reverse side of the 2050-cent commemorative Millennium coin, one can spot the Australian flag proudly displayed. But what makes this variety special is that the flag is depicted in two contrasting ways, one in which it is raised and another where it is incused. It's as if the coin itself is embodying the duality of history and reflecting Australia's rich heritage and its journey into the new millennium. One of the easiest ways to actually differentiate between them is to run your fingers over the surface of the coins. On one version, you will feel the flag's image raised above the coin's surface as if it's waving proudly in the breeze. Yet on the other version, that same flag is actually incused into the coin's surface, creating a unique contrast between the two. When Drew Jackson initially made his discovery, it sent ripples through the coin collecting community. Collectors worldwide were captivated by the prospect of owning one of these. Each coin became not just a piece of currency, but a tangible connection to a momentous period in history. Drew Jackson's find served as a testament to the excitement and wonder that coin collectors experience in their pursuit, and his discovery elevated the status of the 2050-cent commemorative Millennium coin, transforming it into a highly sought-after treasure. So the next time you come across a coin, whether in your pocket change or within the vast world of numismatic treasures, take a moment to appreciate the stories that it carries and the collectors like Drew Jackson who continue to unveil the hidden gems within the realm of coinage. Now, before we get into the potential value for this coin, I'm going to give you some of the specifications. If any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a counterfeit. You have to be very wary of counterfeits these days. There are several sites that sell counterfeit coins, whether it be Canadian, American, Australian, and usually when it comes to heirs or varieties like this, there will be an abundance of counterfeit coins. So you want to do your due diligence and definitely check some of the specifications. So the denomination is 50 cents. The year of issue is from the year 2000. The composition of the coin is copper-nickel, which is 75% copper, 25% nickel. The coin has a diameter of 31.51 millimeters, a weight of 15.55 grams, and the edge is smooth, as is the standard for most Australian coins, and the die axis is in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Australian, Canadian, and British coins as well. Now, in terms of value, the Coins in Australia website does not actually give you values on the low end. The lowest grade example that they actually give you values for is an MS60, but one important thing to note is that Australian, British, American, and sometimes coins from foreign countries will score much higher in the MS scale than Canadian coins. The Sheldon scale is a 70-point system, so it is very rare for Canadian coins to score above MS67. It's not that it never happens, but if it does happen, then it is usually a modern coin, and if it is an older coin, then it'll be worth some buku money. But Australian, British, and American coins have a much better chance of scoring between an MS67 and an MS70, and if it does score in that high tier of grading, it can definitely add some value to the coin. Now, in terms of value, the first price estimate that they give on coins in Australia is $762 for an MS62 example. Now, on the low end, this coin definitely has a premium. I would say it's probably worth around $20 to $30. If it is beat up, worn, and been through the meat grinder, people will still want this thing for their collection, so it's definitely a good one to look for. But on the high end, it can be worth $2,160 for an MS64 example, which, as we know right now, is currently the highest graded known example. If you were to find one and it scored an MS65, it would probably be worth around $3,000. And as it goes up in the grading tiers, you're going to see some massive price jumps. We could be talking a $10,000 coin if it scored MS67 or higher. The Australian 50-cent coin, featuring the Commonwealth coat of arms on its reverse side, was first introduced into circulation on Decimal Day, which was February 14, 1966. The initial coins were minted in silver, which added a notable intrinsic value to the currency. However, the rising price of silver soon exceeded the coin's face value, making it impractical to continue using the precious metal for general circulation. As a result, Australian silver 50-cent coins quickly became collector's items valued for their material as well as their historical significance. In response to the impracticality of using silver, a redesign of the 50-cent coin was initiated. By September 1969, a newer version of the coin was introduced, made from a more cost-effective and durable alloy. This new coin also featured a distinctive dodecagonal or 12-sided shape to help distinguish it from the round 20-cent coins. This change in shape was made to prevent confusion among the public due to the similar sizes of the 50 and 20-cent pieces. The newer alloy, consisting of copper and nickel, ensured that the coin could withstand the rigors of daily use without any of the financial issues that were posed by silver. The reverse side of Australian 50-cent coins prominently display the Commonwealth coat of arms, which includes two of Australia's most iconic animals, the kangaroo and the emu. The kangaroo, a symbol of Australia, is well known for its large, powerful hind legs and its ability to leap great distances. These legs, along with its large feet, are perfectly adapted for its unique mode of travel. The kangaroo's long muscular tail serves as a crucial counterbalance during movement, while its small head and large ears make it a distinctive creature. Female kangaroos also possess a pouch called a marsupium, where their young, known as joeys, continue their development post-birth. The emu, another emblematic Australian animal, is the second largest living bird by height, surpassed only by the ostrich. Emus are flightless birds with long necks and legs, adapted for running at high speeds. Their range and territory covers most of mainland Australia, making them a familiar sight across the continent. Both the kangaroo and the emu were chosen for the coat of arms not only because they are unique to Australia, but also because they are unable to walk backwards, symbolizing a nation that only moves forwards. The inclusion of the kangaroo and emu on the Commonwealth coat of arms adds a layer of cultural and natural heritage to Australian 50-cent pieces. This design, created to represent the unity and identity of Australia, underscores the importance of these animals in the national consciousness. Their depiction on the coin serves as a daily reminder of the country's rich biodiversity and the characteristics that make Australia unique. The transition from a silver coin to one made of copper and nickel alloy in 1969 was a significant moment in Australian numismatic history. It reflected the need for practical and sustainable solutions in currency production while maintaining the cultural symbols that resonate with the public. Today, the 50-cent coin remains a staple of Australian currency, valued not only for its utility, but also for its representation of the nation's heritage and its ongoing story. The two rare Australian 50-cent coin varieties from 1979 and 1980, known as the double bar varieties, are highly sought after by collectors due to their rarity and unique features. These coins were minted in somewhat unknown and limited quantities during their retrospective years of issue and are distinguishable from their more common counterparts by the presence of two distinct lines or bars behind the emu's head on the reverse side of the coin. This subtle difference in design makes the double bar variety stand out and adds to their desirability among collectors. The identification of the 1979 and 1980 50-cent double bar coin varieties requires a keen eye and an attention to detail. To distinguish the double bar variety from its much more common counterpart, you need to focus on the area behind the emu's head on the reverse side of the coin. In the double bar variety, there are two distinct lines or bars that connect the emu's head with its tail. On the other hand, the more common issue features only a single bar in this area. This subtle difference in design is crucial for identifying the rare double bar variety and adds an extra layer of intrigue to the world of Australian coin collecting. Now, the existence of this double bar variety can be attributed to various factors, including variations in the minting process and also die production. It's plausible that during the minting of these coins, slight alterations occurred in the dies or machinery used, leading to the creation of the distinctive double bar design. Another possibility is that changes in the design or manufacturing process may have inadvertently resulted in the production of these rare varieties. Whatever the reason may be, the rarity of the double bar varieties on the 1979 and 1980 Australian 50-cent coins adds to their allure and makes them highly sought after by experienced collectors. One of the more substantial theories behind the creation of the double bar varieties suggests they may have originated from a limited run of coins struck with specific modified dies. These modified dies may have been used for a short period or in specific minting runs, which could have resulted in a small number of these coins featuring the unique double bar design. Another possibility is that the double bar varieties were produced as part of an experimental run or a trial phase in the minting process, with only a limited number of these coins being struck before reverting back to the standard design. The significance of the double bar varieties extends beyond their rarity. They also offer collectors a fascinating glimpse into the intricacies of coin production and design. Each coin tells a story of its own, reflecting the craftsmanship and ingenuity of the minting process. The double bar varieties for the 1979 and 1980 50-cent coins are prized possessions among collectors. Their unique design and limited mintage make them highly sought after, while their origins remain somewhat shrouded in mystery. Whether struck from modified dies or produced during an experimental phase, these rare varieties offer collectors a glimpse into the fascinating world of Australian coin production and design. Now, before we get into the value, some of the details and specifications for these 50-cent pieces, if any of these are off, and may indicate that the coin is not authentic. The mintage figure for the 1980 50-cent Australian coin is 38,681,000. Now, I do have to mention that there are proof versions of these coins as well, and you can also identify the double bar variety for the proof versions. And if you do, they are much more rare and valuable even than the circulation strikes. Now, when it comes to mintage figure for the 1980, there were only 68,000 proofs struck, and the double bar varieties are included in those mintage figures. It is somewhat unknown exactly how many of them exist, but it is definitely not too many of them, and only a few are graded and accounted for currently. The mintage figure for the 1979 50-cent piece is 24,886,200. The mintage figure for the 1979 proof 50-cent piece is 36,000, and once again, the double bar is included in those mintage figures. These coins should be composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. They should have a diameter of 31.5 millimeters, and they were designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse. Now, once again, to identify the double bar variety, what you want to do is look behind the emu's head on the reverse of the coin, and you want to look for two bars or lines that connect the back of the emu's head to its tail feathers. If you can identify that, then you have the double bar variety. In terms of value, it would seem that the 1980 is slightly more rare and valuable, especially on the high end. If you can score in that mint state range, you can definitely make a good profit off of one of these coins. For the 1979 double bar, it can be worth around $10 for an MS63, around $30 for an MS65, and the maximum value that you're going to be getting if you can identify the double bar variety on your 1979 Australian 50-cent coin is around $50 for an MS66. Now, these are somewhat modern coins, and Australian coins tend to grade a little bit higher on the Sheldon scale. They have a way better chance of scoring between 68 and 70. And if you did manage to score in that range, I don't doubt that you could easily get anywhere from a couple hundred to maybe $500 to $1,000 for these rare varieties if they are in exceptional condition. Now, the rarer of the two circulation strikes is the 1980 double bar variety. It is worth around $50 for an MS65, so about $20 more, and the maximum value that you can get for the 1980 double bar is $75 for an MS66, so it's worth about $25 more than the 1979. Once again, if it did score any higher, I don't doubt that you would see some massive price jumps. And then we also have the proof strikes for these coins. If you are able to find an Australian 1979 or 1980 proof set and you can identify the double bar varieties for the 50-cent piece, then you can make a potential massive profit. Now, there's currently only a price estimate for the 1979, but if you can identify that double bar on your 1979 Australian proof 50-cent piece, it can be worth around $800 for a PR70. Now that is at the tip top of the Sheldon scale, the nicest, most exceptional condition coin that you could have. The 1980 is actually a little bit less rare when it comes to the proof strikes. They made about twice as many of the 1980 proof 50-cent pieces, but I still don't doubt that you could get around $400 to $500 if it did hit that PR70 mark. These are some of the rarest and most sought after of the modern 50-cent pieces that you can find by searching through your pocket change or coin roll hunting, so it is definitely good to have these on your radar. Since the introduction of Australia's decimal currency system on February 14th, 1966, the 20-cent coin has played a significant role replacing the previous florin denomination, which was valued at 2 shillings or a tenth of a pound. Over the years, the coin has undergone several changes, particularly in its obverse face designs. The coin initially featured a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machen from 1966 to 1984. Subsequent designs have included renditions by Raphael Monkloff from 1985 to 1998 and Ian Rank Broadley from 1999 to 2019. The final portrait of Queen Elizabeth II that was used in Australia was done by Jodie Clark since the year 2019. The obverse typically bears the inscription Australia and the year of issue on the right with Elizabeth II on the left, but that will now change with King Charles being the king. The reverse side of Australian 20-cent coins depict a platypus, which was designed by artist Stuart Devland. This became the standard design for the reverse side of Australian 20-cent coins. Aside from occasional commemorative issues, the platypus motif has remained a constant feature, symbolizing Australia's unique wildlife heritage. Notably, the United Nations 20-cent coin, which was minted in 1995, marked the first commemorative release of its kind for circulation. While commemorative designs had been issued previously for other denominations, this marked a significant milestone for the Australian 20-cent coin. In terms of legal tender status, 20-cent coins hold value for transactions up to $5, making them a widely accepted and used form of currency for everyday purchases and payments. This ensures their practicality in daily financial transactions across the country. Beyond just their nominal value, these coins carry historical and cultural significance, representing Australia's transition to decimal currency and celebrating its natural heritage through numismatic artistry. The 1981 20-cent coin struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette, specifically the 3.5 claw variety, is a highly unusual and sought-after mint heir in the realm of Australian numismatics. This unique error occurred when the Australian 20-cent coin dies were mistakenly fed with the planchettes intended for the Hong Kong $2 coins during the minting process. The resulting coins exhibit distinct characteristics that differentiate them from standard Australian currency, making them prized collectibles among enthusiasts. Now, one of the key features you want to identify on this heir is the presence of both the scalloped planchette that is found on the Hong Kong $2 planchette and also the scalloped letters that are one of the varieties you can find for the Australian 1981 20-cent coin. You can find the presence of the scalloped or straight letters in the inscription of Elizabeth on the obverse of the coin. The scalloped letter variety is notably rarer than the straight letter variety. Now, to identify the scalloped lettering on the 1981 20-cent coin, you want to look at the inscription of Elizabeth, and you basically want to take a look at all of the points on the letters, and you want them to be a lot more rounded. The edges of the lettering in the straight variety will be a lot more pointed, while the lettering in the scalloped variety will be a lot more blunt. That is basically the easiest way that I can put it to you. Now, there is actually another variety you can identify for this coin that can add a premium, even if it is not the Mule coin. And to identify this, what you want to do is take a look at the claws on the platypus, which is depicted on the reverse side of the coin. Now, you are looking for the 3.5 claw variety, which is characterized by the presence of 3 full claws, with the 4th claw appearing partially cut off, particularly under the digit 2. In contrast, the less rare variety features 4 fully pronounced claws, which are clearly visible without any signs of deterioration or wear. Now, if you can identify the scalloped letters and the 3.5 claw variety, you already have yourself a fairly rare 20-cent coin. This is one of the more rare varieties that you can look for, but there is actually an extremely rare Holy Grail variety for this coin that was struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette by mistake. The distinctiveness of this 1981 20-cent coin struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette, particularly the 3.5 claw variety, contributes to its desirability among collectors. Air coins such as these often command premium prices in the numismatic market due to their scarcity and novelty. The unique combination of minting errors, including the use of the wrong planchette and these distinct die variations, make these coins prized additions to any collector from the land down under. Beyond their collectible value, these air coins offer insights into the intricacies of the minting process and the potential for human and mechanical errors in coin production. They serve as tangible reminders of the challenges faced by mints and ensuring the accuracy and quality of coinage. The study and appreciation of mint errors like this 1981 20 scalloped letters struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette with 3.5 claws provide a fascinating glimpse into the world of numismatics. Some of the details and specifications for the Australian 1981 20-cent coin, if any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a mule variety or possibly a counterfeit, but the mule will be slightly more yellowish in color and will also have these scalloped edges, but chances are if you were to find a counterfeit of a 1981 20-cent coin, it would probably be for the mule. I've seen plenty of counterfeits on online auction sites like AliExpress, eBay, and Temu, and I would not doubt that this is a coin that could make an appearance on there, and you could probably buy a counterfeit for a couple of dollars. So you definitely want to do your due diligence and make sure that all of the specifications are bang on. Now, in terms of the legitimate 1981 20-cent Australian coin, it is supposed to be composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It is intended to have a weight of 11.31 grams and a diameter of 28.52 millimeters. It was designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse, and the edge of the coin is milled. Now, what do you say we get into the values for these 1981 errors and varieties? Now, the most valuable of the different regular varieties that you can look for is the 1981 with 3.5 claws and scalloped letters. If you can find one of these, it can definitely have a premium on the low end. It can probably be worth anywhere from $5 to $25, depending on how worn and beat up it is and how badly somebody wants the coin. Now, as it starts to get into the MS range, the 1981 3.5 claws with scalloped letters can be worth around $150 for an MS66 and around $300 for an MS67. So considering that is just a die variety, that isn't too bad for a fairly modern Australian coin. Unfortunately, there aren't too many Australian coins produced in the last 40 or 50 years that are worth a whole lot of money, and this is definitely one of the most valuable ones that you can find. Now, if you can identify the 3.5 claws and the scalloped letters, and it also has that scalloped $2 Hong Kong planchette, then you have yourself an incredibly rare coin. Now, I unfortunately was not able to find any listed values for this coin, but it is actually listed on PCGS's website and it has been attributed. So if you do find one, you can send it in to be graded, but they did not list any auction records. But if I had to guess for this coin, if you found one and it scored in the low end, you could easily get probably around $500 to $1,000. This is an extremely rare air coin, and finding planchette errors like this just does not happen too often. So it's definitely good to know which dates to look for that these planchette errors might occur on, so you have an idea. Now, if you find one of these on the high end, if it scores anywhere from an MS66 to MS70, which is not impossible for Australian coins, sometimes they will nab that higher grading tier, then I don't doubt that you could easily get around $10,000 for this coin, especially if it scores in the MS67 range or higher. This is a holy grail and one of the rarest and most valuable Australian coins that you could find from the last 30 or 40 years. And this is one that I could definitely see getting mixed in with a big bag of world coins. I've gotten plenty of coins from all over the world before: Japanese coins, Chinese, German, Czech, Swedish coins, and sometimes you will see some really crazy planchettes, like with Chinese coins, they will have holes in the center. And I have encountered scalloped coins in the past. I'm pretty sure some of the Jamaican pieces actually have scalloped edges as well. So if you do happen to find one of these 1981 Australian 20-cent coins and it has the scalloped edges, you might just want to get a second opinion, because who knows if you have a coin that is worth more than $10,000. Australian 1-cent coins have been part of the nation's currency and economy when they were first produced by the Royal Australian Mint and its branches, as well as the Royal Mint in London. However, these coins didn't enter circulation until February of 1966. They were introduced as part of Australia's shift to decimal currency, replacing the earlier pre-decimal halfpenny. The decision to cease the issue of 1-cent coins was announced on August 21st, 1990. This decision was primarily driven by two key factors. The first factor being inflation, which had eroded the real purchasing power of these coins over the years. The nominal value of the Australian 1-cent coin had significantly diminished, making them impractical for everyday transactions. Secondly, the cost of minting these coins became increasingly disproportionate to their face value. So at the end of the day, it became economically unsustainable to continue producing Australian 1-cent coins. Despite ceasing their production, Australian 1-cent coins still retain their status as legal tender. This means they can still be used to purchase goods and services or deposited at financial institutions. Even though they were gradually withdrawn from circulation starting in February 1992, individuals and businesses are not obligated to refuse them as payment if offered. The feathertail glider, often known as the flying mouse or flying squirrel, is a remarkable marsupial species native to eastern Australia. Now, what sets this tiny glider apart is its incredible ability to glide through the air, making it the world's smallest gliding mammal. One of the most distinctive features of the feathertail glider is its long feather-shaped tail, from which it derives its name. This unique adaptation allows it to make controlled gliding descents from tree to tree, covering distances of up to 25 meters or 82 feet or more in a single bound. The feathertail glider's gliding prowess is an essential survival strategy for navigating its forested habitat and avoiding ground-based predators. In addition to its gliding abilities, the feathertail glider is also known for its minuscule size, with adults typically weighing around 10 grams or less. They are primarily nocturnal creatures, emerging at night to forage for nectar, pollen, insects, and small fruits. These tiny marsupials are not only captivating but an integral part of Australia's unique ecosystem. Their survival depends on the conservation of their forest habitats, which are increasingly threatened by deforestation and habitat loss. Now that you have an understanding of the animal on the reverse of the Australian 1-cent coin, what do you say we discuss the coin that you guys are all here to find out about, and that is the blunt second whisker 1966 penny. Now, this piece was minted at 3 different mints in Australia, and where it was minted can affect the value greatly. 1966 pennies minted in Melbourne and Perth are the most rare and will also have the blunt whisker varieties that you are looking for, while the penny minted in Canberra has the pointed whiskers and is not worth much above face value. Now, there are 2 different degrees or varieties of the blunt whiskers, which are specific to the location or mint that they originated. The most valuable of the Australian 1966 penny varieties, and the one that you want to try and identify, is the blunt second whisker, which was minted in Perth, and this one has the highest value, but actually the blunt first whisker is actually pretty valuable as well. That one was minted in Melbourne. Now, the blunt first whisker variety on the 1966 Australian Melbourne penny refers to a specific characteristic on the design of the reverse of the coin. On this side, the first whisker and second whiskers depicted on the flying mouse appear to have a blunt or rounded tip instead of the more common pointed tips. This variation is very subtle, but is a distinct and collectible variety among numismatists. The 1966 Australian penny was minted at the Royal Australian Mints in Canberra, Melbourne, and Perth, marking the first year of decimal coinage in Australia. Decimalization saw the transition from pounds, shillings, and pence to the dollar coin and cents system. The penny was one of the denominations introduced during this transition. Collectors value this variety for its uniqueness and the challenge of finding it among regular 1966 pennies. The scarcity of the blunt first whisker variety contributes to its desirability, and collectors often seek to add it to their collections. Now, the value of these Australian 1966 pennies can vary depending on several factors such as its condition, rarity within the market, and most importantly, demand from collectors. Generally, coins in excellent condition with clear details tend to command higher prices. And with this one, where the coin was minted plays a significant role in its value. The most valuable of the three varieties is the one minted at the Perth Mint, which has the blunt second whisker variety. The second most valuable is the blunt first whisker, which was minted at Melbourne. And the least valuable of the 1966 penny varieties is the pointed whiskers, which was minted in Canberra. Some of the details and specifications for the 1966 Australian penny is composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. It has a weight of 2.59 grams, a diameter of 17.5 millimeters. It was designed and engraved by Raphael Mocklaw for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse. The edge of the coin is plain, and it is in metal alignment, as is the standard for Canadian, Australian, and British coins. Now, it can be pretty darn tricky to differentiate between these pointed and blunt whisker varieties. I myself even had some difficulty differentiating between the two, so I will definitely put some examples up on the screen. First, we will start with the 1966 blunt first whisker, which was minted at the Melbourne Mint. In terms of value, these aren't super valuable on the low end. It all depends if you can find someone that's willing to pay a premium and wants it for their collection, but you can definitely get a couple dollars for these coins if you can find someone that really wants them for their collection. Now, the blunt first whisker was minted at the Melbourne Mint. Now, in terms of value, it can be worth around $20.90 for an MS62, $32 for an MS64, and all the way up to $37.80 for an MS65, and that is for the blunt first whisker, which was minted in Melbourne. Now, for the rarest of the blunt whisker varieties, the 1966 blunt second whisker, which was minted in Perth, it is actually worth around $17 for an MS62, so a little bit less on the low end, but as you start to go up, you see some price jumps. It's worth around $30 for an MS63, around $45 for an MS64, and around $50 for an MS65 example, and these prices are in Australian as well, so you will be able to get a little bit more in American or Canadian dollars. Now, the least valuable of the three is the 1966 pointed whiskers, which was minted in Canberra. Just to give you an idea, it's only worth about $5 in an MS62, and it can be worth up to $25 for an MS65 example. So the least rare, valuable, and desirable of the three 1966 whisker varieties. Another important thing to keep in mind when I'm giving you these price listings is that it is much more common for Australian and British and American coins to score from an MS67 to MS70. Unfortunately, coins in Canada do not score above MS67 very often. If they do, sometimes we'll get lucky and score an MS68, but usually only for newer modern numismatic pieces do you actually have a likelihood of hitting that 69 or 70 mark. But it is much more likely for Australian and British coins, especially if they are post-decimal era. So these 1966 pennies, even though they are pushing the 50-year mark, they are still relatively modern in the world of coin collecting, so definitely a good one to have on your radar. The Australian penny held a significant role in the currency system of the Commonwealth of Australia before the country adopted decimalization in the year 1966. Operating within the pounds, shilling, and pence system, the Australian penny had various denominational equivalents, showcasing its versatility in the pre-decimal currency landscape. First introduced in the year 1911, the Australian penny mirrored the dimensions and value of the British pre-decimal penny. The coin's worth was 1/12 of an Australian shilling, 1/24 of an Australian florin, or 1/60th of an Australian crown, and 1/240th of an Australian pound. Its longevity spanned from 1911 until the year 1964. Noteworthy monarchs featured on the coin's obverse included King George V, King George VI, and Queen Elizabeth II, each leaving their regal imprint on this iconic coin. During the reigns of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth II, the reverse side boasted the image of a kangaroo, a motif later incorporated into other Australian coins, also including the dollar and the silver bullion kangaroos. The George VI era introduced some mint-specific variations. Pennies minted in Perth exhibited a dot in strategic positions like the end of penny or after Australia, or between the K and G above the kangaroo's tail. Melbourne minted coins lacked this distinctive dot. An eye beneath King George VI bust indicated minting in India, exclusively found on pennies and halfpennies dated between 1942 and 1943. Following the introduction of the Australian dollar in the year 1966, the penny became equivalent to 0.8333 cents, marking the end of its era as a functional unit of currency, but cementing its enduring legacy in the numismatic landscape. The 1959 Australian penny stands out as a particularly valuable coin within its date range, with its worth ranging from approximately $1 on the lower end of the grading scale to an impressive 600 Australian dollars for specimens graded at MS67. The reason that this coin is so noteworthy is that in the realm of pre-decimal Queen Elizabeth II pennies, it commands a premium even at the lower end of the grading spectrum. The potential for an increase in value over time also adds an intriguing dimension to the allure of the 1959 Australian penny. This distinctive feature sets it apart from its counterparts, making it an addition to numismatic collections. The rarity and premium on the low end contribute to the coin's desirability among collectors, further solidifying its status as a valuable and potentially appreciating asset in the world of Australian coin collecting. Now, some of the details and specifications for the 1959 Australian penny, if any of these are off, then it may indicate that the coin is not authentic. So the 1959 Australian penny comes in two distinct variations. There is the regular or plain 1959 penny, and then there is the 1959 Y dot. To identify the Y dot, what you want to do is look for a dot which will be visible after the lettering of penny. Now, believe it or not, it is actually the plain 1959 Australian penny that you are looking for. The 1959 regular Australian penny has a mintage figure of 1,617,000, while the 1959 Y dot has a mintage figure of 14,428,000. Now, these coins were minted at the Melbourne Mint. They have a composition of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. They have a weight of 9.45 grams, a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, and the coins were designed and engraved by Mary Gillick for the obverse and George Kruger Gray for the reverse. In terms of this coin's value, it isn't going to make you rich on the low end, but it does have a premium considering its face value is only 1 cent. It is worth around $1 for a G4, it can be worth around $5 for a VF20, and all the way up to $20 for an AU50 example. Now, as we start to get into the mint state region, we see some price jumps. It is worth around $60 for an MS60, around $200 for an MS64, and it can be worth all the way up to 600 Australian dollars for an MS67 example. This one is a lot more rare than most of the other pennies within this date range, and it also has a higher low end value. Most of the other pennies will be worth max 50 cents, but for this one, you can get around $1 for it. I can't tell you exactly why, but it does have a relatively low mintage figure of around $1.5 million. The Australian sixpence coin circulated from the year 1910 until the decimalization of Australian currency in the year 1966. Initially, these coins were minted in England, but from 1916, Australian branches of the Royal Mint in Sydney and Melbourne began producing them. The Coinage Act of 1909 authorized the issuance of Australian coins in specific denominations, including the sixpence, which adhered to the same weight and size standards as British currency. By 1916, all silver denominations, including the sixpence, could be minted locally. The complete transition to unique Australian currency came with decimalization in the year 1966. During the era of the sixpence, Australian society was heavily influenced by British customs and culture. Phrases and references to British currency were common in everyday life, and traditional nursery rhymes and literature featured British monetary units. The Australian sixpence, along with other pre-decimal coins, reflected this cultural connection by retaining similarities to British coinage in both design and usage. The formation of the Commonwealth of Australia in the year 1901 marked the beginning of a unified Australian currency system. Initially, Australian currency consisted of gold, silver, and bronze coins from the United Kingdom. The Coinage Act of 1909 established the legal tender status of the Australian sixpence, florin, shilling, threepence, penny, and halfpenny coins, requiring that the batches of silver coins be composed of sterling silver, which is 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper. The first shipment of Australian Commonwealth silver shillings arrived in Sydney in March 1910, with other coins including the sixpence following later that year. The design of the Australian sixpence remained remarkably consistent over its 50-year history. It traditionally followed the British custom of changing the direction in which the monarch's profile faced with each new reign. Despite this, the reverse design of the Australian sixpence, featuring the Commonwealth of Australia coat of arms, remained unchanged from its introduction in 1910 until the last minting in 1963. The obverse designs varied with each reigning monarch, from King Edward VII to George V, King George VI, and finally Queen Elizabeth II. The sixpence coin was a favored medium of exchange, making it difficult for collectors to find well-preserved examples due to their extensive use. Despite the transition to decimal currency in 1966, the old sixpence coins were not demonetized and can still occasionally be found in circulation. The introduction of decimal currency simplified financial transactions and marked a significant step in Australia's economic independence, promoting Australian symbols and enhancing economic efficiency for the country. The 1953 Australian sixpence coin is particularly notable and more valuable than other sixpence coins within the same date range or from the Queen Elizabeth II era. This coin is distinguished by its relatively low mintage, its historical significance as the first year to feature Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, and its specific production at the Melbourne Mint. One of the key factors contributing to the value and rarity of the 1953 sixpence is its low mintage figure. With only 1,152,000 coins produced, it is one of the rare sixpences from the post-World War II period. Collectors often seek out coins with lower mintages because they are less common and therefore more difficult to find in good condition. The 1953 sixpence also holds significant historical value as it was the first year that Queen Elizabeth II was featured on the obverse of Australian coinage. Following the death of her father, King George VI, in 1952, Queen Elizabeth II ascended to the throne and new coins were minted to reflect this change. The obverse design by Mary Gillick, which depicts a youthful Queen Elizabeth II wearing a laurel wreath, marked a new era in Commonwealth coinage. Coins from a first year of a new monarch's reign are often more sought after by collectors due to their historical significance and symbolic significance. The 1953 sixpence continued the traditional design of its predecessors. The reverse design by W.H.J. Blakemore features the Australian coat of arms, which includes a shield supported by a kangaroo and an emu and a seven-pointed star as the crest. The continuity in reverse designs combined with the new obverse monarch creates a unique combination that is appealing to collectors. The fact that these coins were minted at the Melbourne Mint adds another layer of interest. The Melbourne Mint has quite a storied history, and sometimes coins produced there can carry an extra level of prestige. Collectors often pay attention to the mint of origin, and those from notable mints like the Melbourne can be found more desirable. As with all coins, the condition of one of these 1953 sixpence greatly affects its value. Coins that have been well preserved, exhibiting minimal wear and retaining much of their original mint luster and design features are particularly prized. Given the low mintage figure, finding a 1953 sixpence in excellent condition could be a significant achievement for any collector. Taking all of that into account, the 1953 Australian sixpence stands out due to its low mintage, historical significance as the first year of Queen Elizabeth II's reign, and its production at the Melbourne Mint facility. These factors combined to make it a more valuable and sought-after coin among numismatists and collectors, particularly those interested in post-World War II and early Elizabethan Australian coinage. Now, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate that it is not a legitimate or authentic example. This coin has an extremely low mintage figure of 1,152,000. It was minted at the Melbourne Mint in Australia. It is composed of 50% silver, 40% copper, 5% zinc, and 5% nickel. It has a weight of 2.82 grams, a diameter of 19 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Mary Gillick, and the reverse by W.H.J. Blakemore. Now, one of the good things about this coin is it does carry a slight premium on the low end. It's not going to be worth too much more than its silver melt value, but if you do find one of these that is extremely worn and beat up, it can be worth around $3 for an F12. The prices that I'm giving you are in Australian dollars, so if you happen to live in Canada or the United States, you might be able to get a little bit more for some of these rare key dates. Now, if you find one of these and it's pushing the AU50 mark, it can be worth around $50. As you start to get into the MS range, you start to see some pretty nice price jumps. It can be worth around $150 for an MS60, and the maximum current evaluated price for this coin is around $1,100 for an MS66. If you found one and it graded any higher, I don't doubt that you could easily get anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, especially if it hit around an MS68 to MS70. British and Australian coins have a lot better chance of scoring above the MS67 mark than, let's say, Canadian coins. So if you do find one of these and it's in exceptional condition, I would definitely suggest sending it off to be graded, because you may be able to turn a pretty good profit. Australian pattern coins, particularly the Kookaburra patterns from the year 1919 to 1921, are fascinating numismatic collectibles with a rich history. Here's some detailed information about these patterns. The Kookaburra pattern coins were created at some point during the early 20th century, specifically between the years 1919 and 1921. These coins were produced as part of Australia's exploration of potential coinage designs. Patterns are trial pieces struck to experiment with new designs, metals, and denominations before official coins are minted for circulation. In the case of the Kookaburra patterns, the Australian government sought to explore the possibility of including a distinctive native Australian bird, the kookaburra, on its coinage, also changing the design and shape to a square coin. The Kookaburra patterns featured a stunning design by famed Australian sculptor and engraver William Henry James Blakemore. The obverse of the coin typically bore the portrait of the reigning monarch King George V during this period, but it is the reverse and shape of these coins where their uniqueness truly shines. The reverse design prominently featured a kookaburra bird perched on a branch, often depicted in a lifelike and detailed manner. The design might have variations in terms of the size and positioning of the kookaburra, as well as the style of the branch and leaves. The denominations of penny and halfpenny were usually inscribed on the coin, indicating its intended denomination. Additionally, some of these patterns might feature different metal compositions or alloys such as silver, copper, or bronze. Kookaburra patterns are exceptionally rare and highly sought after by collectors. Their extremely limited mintage and purpose as trial pieces make them a rarity in the numismatic world. The exact mintage numbers for each of the different varieties can vary, but it is generally believed that only a small number of these patterns were struck. Some varieties might have mintage figures in the single digits, making them extremely scarce. The main factor that contributes to the rarity of these patterns stems from the fact that they were never intended for circulation. As trial pieces, they were struck for evaluation and testing, and were more likely melted down or destroyed after their purpose was served. Only a handful have survived to the present day, adding to their desirability among collectors. Top quality examples in pristine condition can command substantial prices at numismatic auctions and private sales. Collectors often compete to acquire these patterns when they become available in the market. Due to their limited supply and high demand, their value has the potential to appreciate over time. Australian pattern coins like the Kookaburra patterns from 1919 to 1921 are not only valuable numismatic artifacts, but also important pieces of Australia's coinage history. Their rarity, striking design, unique shape, and also the story behind their creation make them a cherished part of the world of coin collecting. Now, these Kookaburra pennies and halfpennies were minted between the years 1919 and 1921, and because of that, they have several different varieties and compositions that you can look for. But what I'm going to do is just give you guys the most valuable of these Kookaburra patterns. And if you are to find any of them, you can be sure that you're going to get some really good money for it regardless. So the first one that we are going to cover is going to be the Type 1 halfpenny. This one is composed of 75% nickel and 25% copper. It has a weight of 1.97 grams, a diameter of 14 millimeters. The shape is square. Now, if you were to discover one of these coins and you sent it off to be graded by PCGS or NGC, it would get the SP or specimen attribution. Usually trials, essays, and patterns will get the specimen designation, but they aren't truly specimen coins, they are trials, patterns, and essays. Now, the Type 1 1920 halfpenny can be worth around $177,800 for an SP63, $200,300 for an SP65 and $395,000 for an SP67, which is currently the highest graded known example of one of these coins. So that is some buku dollars for a coin that is only half of a penny, because this is for the 1920 half penny. It is the most valuable coin in this series and also one of the most valuable coins from Australia. It stands up next to the 1922 3p coin with the 2/1 variety, and definitely a holy grail in the realm of Australian numismatics. The next one that we're going to cover is going to be the Type 4A 1919 penny. This one is composed of 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper. So you notice the composition change between the previous coin and this one. The weight of this piece is 4.67 grams. It has a diameter of 18 millimeters and the shape is square. In terms of value, this one can be worth around $67,200 for an SP63, $75,700 for an SP64, and all the way up to $237,000 for an SP65. So not quite as valuable as that previous half penny, but still another extremely valuable coin and a holy grail in the realm of Australian coin collecting. Next up is the Type 6A 1919 penny. This one is composed of 92.5% silver, 7.5% copper. This one has a weight of 4.41 grams. So you will notice this penny actually has a slight weight reduction over the previous penny. The previous penny was 4.67 grams, and this one has a weight of 4.41, which is pretty interesting. It has a diameter of 18 millimeters and the shape is square. Now, in terms of value for the Type 6A 1919 penny, you can get around $67,200 for an SP63, around $75,700 for an SP64, and all the way up to $237,000 for an SP65 example, and that is for the Type 6A 1919 penny. The last coin that we are going to cover today is going to be the Type 10 1920 penny. This one is composed of 75% nickel and 25% copper. So the previous two were composed of silver, but this one is actually composed of nickel, just like the first half penny that we discussed on the list. The weight of this coin is 3.88 grams. It has a diameter of 18 millimeters and the shape is square. In terms of value, it can be worth around $118,000 for an SP63, around $133,500 for an SP65, and all the way up to $256,000 for an SP66, which is currently the highest graded known example. Now, what do you guys think about these Australian trial or pattern coins? What would you ever do if you found a legitimate example, or if you ever have found any coins similar to the ones that I discussed in this video? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. Also, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one, folks. So until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.